Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Rebuild It. If you remember last week, we ended with our dash, or pretty much our entire interior tore out of the Corvette. So we'll start up this episode where we left off on the last one and start building it back up. So let's not waste any time here and get the airbag put back in, get it all bolted back up, and then we will start trying to weasel that dash back in there. It's got to go, there's wires that have to poke in every hole, and it's got to go, just a hard way to squeeze it in, but we're gonna get her done here. Now that we've got the airbag in, I want to check the old dash and new one and make sure I don't see anything that needs to be transferred over. I know we got to transfer that yaw sensor, but we can do that after we get the new one in. And just leaving it out will give us a little bit more room to fish those wires through. I wondered about this, but there's this little trim piece that goes around the heads-up display. But here's the new dash, and it is on it. And it's the only thing that I see that might have had been transferred, so I think it's ready to be put in. Okay, so there's the new dash in place. It's all lined up. You can see I don't know if you can see because of the reflection, but you can see our bolt going through the holes. Same way on the other side. And you can see our bolt holes lined up there. And they all look like they're lined up down in here. So now it's just a matter of a whole bunch of screws and bolts, putting it back together, get it secured, and then we'll start putting in all the different components. Okay, I've just been working along here, getting a lot of stuff bolted back up, and I've got most of it. Of the big bolts in, everything. It's in here solid now. We can't move, so I gotta go ahead and put in some important items here. This yaw sensor goes back up in here, like that. I'll put a couple nuts on those on that, and then we've got our airbag module that also goes in here. So we'll bolt those both on and get them hooked up, and then just continue on with the components. Next will be the gauge cluster, and then we'll just keep on working until we can feel comfortable getting the power back to it and making sure that our airbag light goes off. All right, so now that we've got all that in there, let's go ahead and jump on the gauge cluster, get that installed, and it's pretty nasty, so I need to clean it first. And then we'll just go ahead and get everything all the way around this steering wheel put back in before we go over to the other side. don't know if you remembered or not, this is the surround that goes around our gauge cluster, but our ignition switch is right here. And I don't know if you can see there now, but there's a crack in that going up and down right through there. I've got a new one of these. I'm going ahead and remove this one and get that switched out while I got it out. Yeah. Okay, so that's getting replaced. And then we'll go ahead and get this thing cleaned up. It's pretty nasty. All right, so here it is all cleaned up. New switch installed. So let's get that put in. Alright, so this side is done, other than the steering wheel, of course. So let's get in the center section, get the HVAC stuff and the stereo put back in, all that wired up, and then we'll move over to the glove box. Now I really want to get the steering wheel and the airbag back in before we give it any power, just to make sure that the airbag light goes off. Alright, so everything dash-wise is back together. All the components, everything except the steering wheel, and there's what I really like to see. My bag of screws, and there's none left. So that means I didn't forget anything.
I love it when a plan comes together.
So let's put the steering wheel on real quick and get our airbag installed, and then we should be able to give it some power. Alright, so I've just got steering wheel finished. I just hooked up the battery. Dash lit up, so that's a good sign. I'm gonna try to start this thing and see if our airbag light goes off. That's like it's always like the big test. There we go. Okay, so and airbag light is still on. Could be because I don't have the seats hooked up. I hope that's what it is. Alright, I'm going to shut it back off, and then we'll start working on carpet and all that, try to get the seats hooked up enough to make sure that goes off. Okay, so this carpet is in. Before I put the seat in, I remember I got to put the pretensioner back on that seat that came back in from Safety Restore. You guys can remember what that looked like before.
And a little bit of water down there in the floor mat you can see, so.
Thing is spick and span now, nice and clean, and there's no smells or anything like that. Let's go ahead and get the pretensioner on that seat. Okay, so there's the pretensioner back on that seat. Now let's get this last piece of carpet installed on the other side, and then we'll put the seats in. Okay, so the carpet is in over there, and I went ahead and stuck this bottom part of the console on just to hold the carpet back up in there so I wouldn't have to fight with it when I have the seats in. And I didn't show this, but I went ahead and swapped out put the new boot on the e-brake. Remember the frame on the old one was just destroyed, so this is a nice new boot. It's got all the correct plastic framework on there, so that is reconnected, and I'm not going to bolt this in case I have to move it around, but I just wanted to get it in there and get the carpet up. So let's put the seats in. Alright, so I've got power back to it. Now let's see if this thing lights will go on. Alright. You remember it was right down there below the seatbelt light. This thing will focus. And it is gone. Once I get all the rest of this stuff plugged up and get that other console piece in, then we will hook our scanner to it and clear all this stuff. This ABS and traction control, and there's a check engine light now. It wasn't on earlier. All right, so now that we've had some success with that, let's just continue getting everything plugged up. I think what I'm going to do on this is I don't know if you can see that impression of where the washer was, or the nut. I'm just going to center these things around where the nut was last time so I know how far in and out this was. Go ahead and put that in, and then we'll start plugging up stuff to go on our surround. Alright, so everything is reconnected, hooked back in. So I said we start this thing up and see if we still, like, what warning lights we still have on, and then we can hook the scanner up and clear everything and see what comes back on. The only thing I don't have done in the interior is I got to put that hockey stick back on the other side. You can't see it from this angle, and then snap our boot back in for the emergency brake. But everything else should be connected, so let's see what we got. Okay, so let's start her up. Let's check our seatbelt. We'll plug it up. Yep. Okay, so we've got tire light, not worried about, and we got the ABS and the traction control. I'm gonna shut this thing back off and go get our scanner and clear everything, and then we'll see what it does. Alright, so I've got my scanner connected to the car, accessory mode on. We'll do an auto scan. So now it's going through and checking each module in the entire car. So engine control module is fine. Okay, so it says there's a fault in the body control module, instrument panel cluster, steering column lock module, remote control lock module, driver door module, driver door switch. Okay, so tons of faults. So we're gonna do a quick erase, because who knows what all was tripped during the wreck. So, and then it'll tell us again here in a minute if the fault still exists. So it's showing a fault in the vehicle communication interface module. Cell phone microphone circuit. That's because here's the wire for it. So good, that's no problem. Now we're going to turn this off or get out of this, and then we will unhook this and start it back up and see what comes back up. All right, so I've got my hockey stick repaired. That was the piece that was broke off of it. I used my hot staples to put it back together, and now it's super solid, so I shouldn't have any more issues. So let's get that reinstalled. Alright, so that section is all done. That looks brand new. Because it is brand new, most of it. So now I want to go ahead and swap out those switches that we were talking about, like on the door. I told you these are like, you kind of got to hit them in the right spot to get it to release. I just think the switches are wore out. So Come on. There it goes. So I'm gonna show you how to do those. They're really super easy. There's 2 screws right here, and this little cover comes off, and the switch, you take the switch out of this little cover and put it back in, and this little frame goes back on there. So that's really easy. And then this piece right here, you can see that's all wore out, and the other side was even worse, but we'll pop this out and change this switch out. Then our doors will look new and work new. This releases, there's a clip right here. You just release this, that pops out, and then your switch just pushes out, comes out like that. This is trash. And a new one. Switch back up. Slides back in like that. Okay, heard it clicks. Okay, so it opens really easy now. So now let's do the other switch. Another thing I wanted to do, you can see our destroyed sun visor here. I finally found another one of those, and they are not cheap. I finally made a deal with a guy for, I think it was like $130 something bucks for that, and that was the cheapest one in the country that I could find. That has that IntelliLink or whatever they call it, the garage door openers on it, and some of them don't have that. And the mirror, that mirror is busted all to pieces when we got it. So there's a little slot like right here. So we're going to put a screwdriver in that slot, and then use this visor, twist it this direction with this screwdriver in the slot, and it's supposed to spin this plastic bezel around until it comes out, and that allows us to get up in there. I guess there's screws in there or something, so we'll see if we can get the wiring out. That's the main thing. All right, so I finally got it to release, but man, that thing was a pain. That was probably worse than replacing the whole dash. It just wanted this piece right here wanted to spin the whole time I was trying to get this. I ended up pretty much tearing it up trying to get it to spin inside there. But so hopefully I can get the wires to fish out through and unplug, and then we can get this piece off. And then the new visor coming in has this piece and the rest of this. So we get the wires out, and then we can go ahead and put our pillar trim back on. All right, so there's the little wire got fished out, just unplugs. And now I got to try to pull this thing out. And I think there's 3 big long tabs that go up in there that we got to kind of squeeze together and get it to pull straight out. And once we do that, we'll move on to the next thing. I'll show you what's going on with this pillar trim. All right, so that's what it looks like once you get it out. You can see there's kind of a weird pattern in there, but I think it only goes in one way easily. Okay, so what I was going to show you on the A-pillar trim was, here's the one that came out of the car, and you can see it's got a couple little cuts in it. I went ahead and found another one to replace it. And the only thing I could see the difference is this is our like our cell phone mic that came in this one, and here's the one that came in the new one. So I'm not sure if those are the same. It looks like the plug is the same on them, but I'm gonna go ahead and swap them out just to be sure that this one works with everything in this car. So I'm gonna pop that one out, swap them, and then we can get that one installed. Alright, so we've got all of our trim on over on this side, and our trim piece up here. Let's see how that's looking. So now all we got left is the trim and the A-pillar trim, and all the trim down there on the carpet on that side. Alright, so I've got all that trim on that side. Now for the zenith. floor mats. So I bought Lloyd mats, which are super nice plush mats. When you get done with a build, the last thing you want to do is put the old nasty floor mats back in like those. Even though I power washed them and cleaned them, the car never looks new on the inside until you add some new floor mats. So here's what these look like. See the GM. So there we go. Get those installed and I'll show you the final product. What do you guys think? The only thing that I see that I need to do, you guys let me know what you think. When I did that center console piece and I painted it that color, I said there's nothing that needs to match. Well, I forgot about these little plastic pieces around like your heads-up display controls on the other side right there. So I might pop that gauge cluster surround back out and take those off and paint them to match that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments if you think it's worth the trouble. That's a little better shot right there. Just the color's a little off. So I'm really happy with the interior. Got all new door buttons and all the switches, you know, that were worn are all replaced, and so everything looks new in there. Well guys, that's going to be it for this episode and for the interior of the Corvette. I just have one more thing to do, and that's put the sun visor on when it comes in. But this video is going to drop on Christmas Eve, so we want to take the opportunity to say Merry Christmas to all our subs and our viewers of the channel. We just really appreciate all your support, and any success that we have on this channel, we want to give the glory to God and thank Him for sending Jesus to be born in a manger all those years ago. So Merry Christmas, guys, and we'll see you on the next episode.
And always remember, don't retire it if you can rebuild it. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in and watching this week's episode of Rebuild It. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any awesome content. Have a good one.